Welcome. Thank you so much for joining. I'm really excited. I'm not sure who is with me today, but whoever is, I'm looking forward to the conversation and talking about something that is seeing me live my passion and loving my work. So I'm really glad. Thank you for joining. I have structured the conversation as I normally do. I'll sort of share some storytelling with you. I love to tell stories. In fact, I can speak underwater. And once I've shared some of that with you, I'd love to hear what's on your mind. And, I've purposely left a lot of time for question and answer. I'd rather sort of have a conversation around things that you really want to know about. So anyway, hopefully we'll get some good questions. But without further ado, I might put up some slides to share. So that is, that's my pride and joy right in front of you, my new business. Started this business about 15 months ago. It's called Maxme, and it very much epitomizes what I have shifted my focus on, and that's helping others to maximize their potential, to maximize themselves, hence the name. So basically, in terms of the conversation today, and very excited to be asked to come and talk about this, is my purpose at the moment is to help young Australians to love their work right from the start. I'm someone who was very, very lucky to be part of a graduate program. I had a great university passage. I joined Accenture as a graduate. I had a great graduate program, and the rest is history. I've spent nearly 30 years in industry. And so for me, one of my key passions is how can I unlock this love of work, this thing that we do for the majority of our waking hours? How can I unlock that for young Australians so that they can really be there loving their work right from the start? So I'll tell you a little bit about what I plan to do or what I've done to make that a reality. So in terms of the Maxme story, just a little bit about that, I guess the question that I'm asked is, what is a 40-something female with an immigrant background? I actually wasn't born in Australia. I was born in the Ukraine. So I don't have an accent, which people say to me, oh, why don't you have an accent? Well, I just don't. But yes, I wasn't born in Australia. I'm the child of immigrants who lived the typical immigrant story of coming to Australia with nothing. And I had this really well-established, hard-fought career in corporate. And, I'm not ashamed to say I sort of had benefited from some really great senior roles, and I worked with some great people. But I really decided that actually I needed to leave corporate, and found myself, opening up a startup and spending quite a bit of my own money, taking a big risk to help young Australians. But, no guts, no glory, as they say. And so for me, it wasn't really anything I could say no to once I decided to do it. So I guess, as I've sort of put there, it's not a story that you hear that often. Having said that, though, I'm speaking to a lot of people who are sort of thinking that that might be a path that they want to take. So I'm excited to be able to share, I guess, what I have done in the last little while and help others even in that capacity as well. But the reason why it all happened is actually in 2019, I fell out of love with work, very much so, big time. And 2020, as crazy and shitty as the year has been for so many, it's actually been the year that I've fallen back in love with my work and with what I have to offer the universe. And so I am here to celebrate that just as much as I am here to share my story about what I'm doing about that. So in terms of what happened, how did it happen? How did I find myself here? I honestly just got sick of, putting my whole self into, the places that I worked, and to living my values, my ethos of servant leadership. And for those on the call that don't know what that means, it's really being in the service of others, of truly seeing my leadership role as being there to enable others and their potential, enable others to be the best that they can be, and to be in service of their potential and what they have to offer. And that leadership style I found myself getting my wings clipped time and time again. And I guess I grew tired of that. I just lost my energy and couldn't keep going. And so I decided that given that's how I felt, it was time to stop dreaming about what I'd been thinking about doing for several years and to start living that. So like I said to you, I'm a no guts, no glory kind of person. And I thought, time to get going. And so I knew that my method and the way that I went about, leading people, mentoring people, coaching people, and I've been so blessed to work with so many people. I knew that my method was successful. Like, I helped a lot of people to get their careers going. I helped to pick them up at times when they were having career crises. And I knew that the way that I went about things worked. And so, given all of that, and also I started to realize that my girls, my two daughters, were becoming teenagers and getting closer to work. And also I was mentoring a couple of university students at the time. It was like the perfect storm of things where I started to say, you know what, I'm going to get out there and I'm going to start helping young Australians to connect with themselves and the dimension that is often not taught and not really looked at or explored before we get to work. And that makes it quite hard doing that exploration of that learning around the human skills, the interpersonal skills while you're at work, grappling with all of the new things that you experience. It's a messy job. And so I thought, how can I get out and offer the advice and the learning and the guidance and the experience, the experiential stuff ahead of time, ahead of getting to work. I must admit that for the longest time, I sort of subscribed to this, to the thinking around this kind of lazy, entitled, millennial, Gen Z problem. I'll put my hand up and say, I subscribed to that for a time where I started to think, these young kids, they come out, they want everything straight away and, they don't want to work for it. It's actually not true at all. And the more exploration I do, the more I realize that actually, it's not that simple at all. As most things in life, it's far more complex, far more complicated than that. And we have a real opportunity to turn this around, to turn the dialogue around and to actually expose it for what it really is. And that is a fundamental lack of teaching and exposure to human skills and interpersonal skill development ahead of coming to work and going through the job seeking and kind of career process. So that's what I've set my mind on. So the problem statement that I've gone out to fix, and that's pretty important to think about why you're doing what you're doing, is our Gen Z and millennial generations are more stressed, less confident, and less ready for our complex world than ever before, I believe, than any other generation. And there's a number of kind of perfect storm factors that are contributing to that. There's a whole lot around technology and the way that they're kind of used to growing up with technology and missing out on some of the things that some of the previous generations had that brought those human skills to life a lot more. Some of our generations are missing out on just those fundamentals to get them ready and get them in the mindset of what they need to know when they start work. And it's definitely not because they feel more entitled. I mean, of course, there's going to be people everywhere in every generation that feel entitled, but that is not the problem. We have 300,000 young adults in Australia who graduate but are lacking those necessary human skills for job success, for confidence building, all of the things that they really need to be able to love their career right from the start. And we need to remember also our youth, as much as that might sort of rub us up the wrong way, but I think we would have been the same at that time, is they do what they think needs to be done. And, this sort of old adage of what gets measured gets done is absolutely true. If you tell a secondary student or a tertiary student that they need to do this learning to be able to advance, you need to get, the ATAR is what's most important, or your HD in your tertiary course to get a good job. That's what they're going to do, and that's what they're going to put their energy and time into. So unless we start to impress upon them the importance of doing more and actually, really applying themselves to the human skill dimension as well, they're not going to do it because it's discretionary effort and they don't necessarily know that that's important. We recently talked to over 800 millennials and, I should say Gen Zs, I apologise, Gen Z, so the sort of 19 to 27-year-olds. And, you know, obviously some of them were still studying, some of them were early to work, some of them had already been in work for 5 years or so. And I'm just going to share some of the stats with you to ponder over. The first one is that 1 in 5 of our Gen Zs, only 1 in 5, are actually feeling good about their work. 2 in 5 are actually not even in the industry that they studied for. So they've gone ahead and they've done all the years in tertiary and they're actually finding themselves in a job that is not related to what they studied in tertiary education. So that in itself is unexpected. Basically, 3 in 5 are doing something different to what they expected going through tertiary education. So again, they enter the workforce, they've worked really hard to get themselves job ready in their mind, and then they're entering the workforce and they're actually doing something completely different. And you can imagine that if you don't have those interpersonal skills or the skills that, you know, okay, that's all right because I'm actually ready to work and I've got all of the other things that I need to be job successful, they're going to feel very lost and very stressed. So as a result of all of those things, basically we found in the research of the young Gen Zs that we spoke to that 68% of them were feeling really unconfident about what they were doing or entering the workplace. Now, consequently, the 3 times is there as a bit of a positive note, a bit of a positive light, and that is that actually when you do love your work and when you're able to do what you love every day at work, so you're living your strengths, you're in flow, you're doing what you love, you're more likely, and this is actually a study or this is information or data that's come from Gallup, which is a very large organization. They've done a lot of study over time. They found that if you do what you love every day, then you're 3 times more likely to actually feel good about what you're doing, to be happy at work, and to actually feel that actually what you're doing is what you want to be doing and you're feeling good about it. Also, 6 times more likely to report, to be engaged and to report a high quality of working life and everything that comes with that. So we know in the workplace that engagement actually leads to much better job outcomes and much better mental health, actually. Which leads me to the 30%, and that is for people who are reporting that they do, let's say they spend the majority of their day doing the stuff that they love and doing the stuff that aligns with their purpose and with their strengths, that only 30% of those people are actually reporting stress or mental health issues. And we know that in the workplace, we are seeing, mental health issue numbers in a really, really alarming rate, and they're rising. And we know that actually when you love your work and when you are doing things that you like doing that are aligned to the things that you value and you feel like you're contributing and making a difference, you are far less likely to be stressed at work. And many studies have actually shown that. And, finally, and really importantly, 75% of the people that we spoke to, the Gen Zs that we spoke to, said that they really wish that they had been given human skill training during their tertiary years in particular, that they didn't know that they needed it. And 75% of them said, we wish that we got it. It would have been put to great use. That's a huge statistic. 3 in 4 have gone through many years of study, they've got to the workplace and they've realised actually that they've missed out a fundamental bit. So that's really helped to anchor Maxme and the people that I'm working with around our purpose. So in terms of the importance of human skills, and I know this is a big statement, but I truly believe that we've actually collectively failed our next generations. We know as adults and sort of later in life going through work, how important the human skills are. In fact, 98% of executives that we spoke to through the research that we did said that human skills are critical to leadership and to actual career success. And the same executive said that 84% of students are actually, or graduates are arriving in the workplace without those skills. So there's a massive, massive gap that's filling and continuing to present itself as our graduates enter the workforce. The reality is, that the education system, as much as they, you know, I really take my hat off to educators. I have 2 teenage daughters that one in that just finished year 12 and one that was in year 9, that have basically spent the majority of their time at home this year. And I take my hat off to educators and the work that they do. So, you know, educators are doing the best that they can to get our kids through the system to get them ready for work. But unfortunately, the structure and the systems of education at the moment don't necessarily value or look favourably upon the development of human skills as an addendum to the technical skills that they're teaching through those years of study. And unfortunately, as a result, our graduates are entering the workforce stressed, not ready, and really, really struggling. And so, because our businesses are demanding it more as well, the other thing that's happening is when our students land, or when the graduates land, companies who think that they're, you know, recruiting the best of the best, which they are from a technical skill point of view, from a grades point of view, they're finding that actually their sort of top of the tree hires are lacking those skills. And so companies are having to invest more time, more effort, more energy to build those skills up in their staff. And so from a productivity point of view, from a time off the tools point of view, it's actually impacting on the bottom line. And so you've got this perfect storm of a situation where, you know, you've got graduates entering, lacking confidence, wanting the skills. You've got employers who are finding that the graduates are lacking the skills and having to invest more in them. That there is a problem to be solved, most definitely. The last point is really an important one, and this has actually come from a number of studies, both McKinsey and Deloitte, who have recently gone public with quite a significant studies each have done over several years. And both have confirmed that in the next decade, 2/3 of jobs are going to need human skill intensive capability, skills. And because obviously, you know, the more we automate, we're really automating the simple stuff. The complex stuff is left for the humans to solve. And you really can't solve those complex problems unless you have those human skills, your ability to be self-aware, to work with others, communicate well, have empathy, have emotional intelligence, be able to deliver on your promise, know what you know to do when you hit the ground running. Agile ways of working. I mean, I know I'm spinning them off like they're sort of, you know, a nothing. They're actually huge in their own right, but all of those skills are the skills that are going to be required in 2/3 of jobs in the next decade. And, you know, you can see why our gap in sort of, coming to the workplace with those human skills and the need through these studies of those skills, it's just exacerbating an already an existing problem, and it's going to get worse and worse unless something is done. And so, you know, we really need to face into this, I think, as an economy, as a country, and as we're thinking about post-COVID as well. What skills do our sort of graduates, do our young Australians need? It's not just technical skills. Really importantly, we have to give them that complement of human skills as well. So what does it take to really be ready to love your work, to be the best version of yourself when you arrive at that really sought after destination of work, which is why you're doing the tertiary study and the secondary study in the first place? So Maxme, the company that I started, is looking to sort of really commercialise and build on that skills transference. We're doing it through a technology first into the market, but very much backed up by a careers coaching capability that we will launch early next year as well. So we've launched our app into market this year, and next year we will launch the coaching capability to really support it. And it's really around delivering those, those positive self-improvement development outcomes. So our mission is very much to supercharge this human skills movement that we want to create. And I know that kind of sounds really out there, but I learned a long time ago that if you want to change the system, you have to create a movement. And the only way we're really going to be able to create that movement is by starting early and changing that world that we all exist in, and it's going to keep changing with the great complexity that we face into year after year. So we want to create this, this movement, this wave of young Australians that are ready and, really got those human skills well developed, ready to start practicing them in the workplace. Our vision is to be a global leader. There really isn't much out there in terms of that sort of whole of person development. There's a lot of things out there. There's certainly mindfulness training. There's bits and pieces. You can go to communication courses. You can go and, you can get a profile done for your strengths, those sorts of things. They're all out there, but there really isn't a whole of self, one-stop shop available, and particularly to our young Australians who really don't have the experts to know where to start looking. The expertise, I should say, to know where to start looking. It's just this wave of knowledge out there, this, more than they need probably, but how do you curate that experience for yourself when you yourself don't know what you need? So we've gone ahead and we've thought about that for our young Australians, and we've curated an experience, a learning experience, which is very much whole of self for them. And, our values, which we are really, really passionate about, is this concept of learning for life. Unfortunately, in our learning system at the moment, in our education system, it is geared to learning to pass, learning what I need to learn to get the marks to continue on. And unfortunately, what happens then is creative thinking and also thinking outside the square. If you don't learn it, then I don't need to know it, is really not necessarily a skill for life. And so we've really pivoted our thinking to this concept of learning for life. How do you start yourself on the journey of actually broadening yourself up to stuff that you may not have been told you need to know, but that you actually do need to know? Ownership. So it's very much around, owning your destiny, owning yourself, your potential, and what you can be. And I know that sounds really simple, but it's actually not. And I know there'll be people on this call that know that actually the working on yourself is difficult. It's challenging, it's confronting, but you do need to own the want and the need to become a different person, a better version of yourself. And so that's really one of our core values, is this concept of owning your own destiny and potential. A huge amount of care. We really lead with empathy. Everything that we do and curate and shape, we do with the mindset of, what was it like to be there once before? What was it like to be new to work? What was it like to be starting out and not knowing? And then what do we need to know? And we take a really, a building blocks approach to it, because if you sort of bombard or if you flood the thinking, then it just becomes too much, and the human is likely to let go of it. So we have bite-sized learning. We have lots of activities to make it sustainable and to stick. And then we really believe in potential. We're a business, as I said to you, we're creating a movement, and that movement is based on every human realizing their potential. So we're really excited about where we can help others realize their potential. It's our core value. So in terms of benefits, and I think, I'm a person that's come out of corporate, so I know the importance of needing to really think about benefits and cost benefit as well. So I think for students and for our young Australians, it's very much around this sort of enhanced confidence, the employability, the increased resilience, just that readiness. And it's not just to go through the job seeking process. I speak to a lot of students who do call upon me for my advice, and all of them want to know about the interview process. And I actually say to them, and as I said today, I spoke to 200 Year 9 boys, the interview process is a step along the way. And if you are secure in who you are, you're confident about communicating, you know how to speak about the things you're good at and not good at, you know how to give examples on things, you know how to tell a story, the interview process will take care of itself. And not only will the interview process take care of itself, you'll actually be really successful when you land in the job, and you'll be able to work with others, influence, negotiate, connect, all of those things that we want to do, that it really takes to love your work and love what you're doing, and have that 3 times and 6 time improvement in my own well-being, and then of course in sort of the outcomes for the employer, which are there, right? Accelerated productivity, performance, belonging, that sense of when you are inducted into a new company and when you start somewhere, that knowledge of how to connect, how to engage, and how to immediately, almost from the word go, build rapport, connect, build trust, all of those things that we need to feel like we belong and feel like we found our tribe. From an educator point of view, of course, there's benefits, because at the end of the day, they are there to unlock employability. And so for educators, it's very much around how do we, give this extra bit to actually make the learning that we're doing with the student, in the classroom through the years that they're in tertiary, that actually makes it therefore translate into something more employable when they get there. From a government point of view, we're very much, we're pretty confident that it's going to help accelerate innovation and also that closing the gap on productivity. And I do believe, and this is just a personal belief of mine, but it is based on a lot of research and study, and that is, I believe that if we can really get the human skill movement going, we will see a really positive trend downwards in the issues that we're seeing in the workplace around stress and around this sort of the mental well-being, the full well-being that we're feeling at work. The studies that I have been involved in are showing that there's a direct correlation between how much I love my work, how good I feel about myself, how much my strengths come to play, and then this sort of well-being at work. From a parent's point of view, and there are parents. I'm a parent of an 18-year-old, and even though she's an adult, I still am thinking a lot about her employability and her well-being, and I can't see myself stop doing that for a while, mother hen or not. For me as a parent, I know that Audrey, my daughter, will have better job prospects. She will have better career success if she works on these skills and if she attains them sooner rather than later. And I know for a fact that if she does that sooner rather than later, she will stand out from the crowd. And in a really, in an environment now where there's less jobs, it's really competitive. Being able to stand out in the right way is very advantageous. And I'm happy for her to have that advantage. From an industry point of view, of course, it broadens our, ways of working, and it helps our youth understand things like agile ways of working, different ways of working, creative problem solving, failing fast, learning, all of those things. These are the things that are going to make a difference to industry as well. And post-COVID, we know that we need to rebuild and we need to get our skates on and get our economy firing again. So I think there's a very, very broad set of benefits. And for those that are thinking, this is fluffy stuff, and don't worry, I've faced into many, many naysayers. You don't need to believe me. The Deloitte Access Economics study that was actually just recently published, Premium Skills 2019, there are sound economics behind this. So they have seen, or the study have found that 20% increase in productivity for those where human skill training has happened. Productivity has gone up by at least 20% in the workers that have worked on and spent time on their human skills. It also reduces employment costs because when you hire new staff, the induction costs, so the actual cost of getting them productive and getting them up to speed, getting them up that curve, time to competency, that reduces. And also your ability to have to deal with bad hires. So people that we know we bring in that perhaps really sort of smashed it in the interview process, but perhaps haven't really got the fit that we need for the workplace, particularly around those human skill dimensions. We know that bad hires are costing, 2.5 times that employee's salary, because by the time you recruit them, hire them, work out that they're not working, fire them, and then start the recruitment process again, it's just this sort of the valley of despair. And we know that costs a lot of money in industry. So the belief is that, having that human skill dimension before you start work is really reducing those time to productivity, time to competency, and also reducing the possibility that you're getting some of those bad hires. It's not going to eradicate it, but it will definitely reduce it. And then, that final point of that they've directly correlated that every 10% increase in human skills is actually contributing to a 5% increase in wages for the people that invest in themselves. So they're seeing promotion quicker, they're seeing salaries going up quicker than those that haven't invested in themselves in that dimension. So there's some pretty compelling statistics around the business case for this, for those that and that's important for I guess some to shift their thinking around this. So Hody is our app. We've spent the majority of this year, and I must say, is coming out of corporate, what we've been able to achieve in the first 10 months of this year. We went live in October, is pretty phenomenal. We've got a fully fledged live app. It's got learning activities, it's gamified, it's exciting. The UX is awesome. I know I would say that because obviously it's my product, but I've got just the most amazing team working on it. And basically, we've gone live with that in October. It's got everything it needs across the 6 core skills that we talk about, which, as I said to you, self-awareness, communicating with impact, mindfulness, action orientation, delivering on your goals, creative problem solving. It's all in there. And it's, accessible, available, ready to download onto your phone, I should say. So obviously iPhone and Android. And the reason why we've gone with that is because it's the tool of choice for our generation, for our Gen Zs for sure, and our millennials as well. And obviously Hody, the ethos for Hody is supercharging your development and also unlocking those unique skills that we're arguing are within you, just need to be, you need to know that you need to know them and start working on them. And then, of course, helping you to manage those weaknesses and those tough situations, which is where, that recovery from setbacks, that resilience that we all need, particularly when we first start out. So as I said to you, it's sort of app-based, in my mind, certainly around this area of learning, it would most definitely replace that sort of textbook type learning. It's very much in my palm because that's where my phone is for those demographics. It's sort of like Velcroed to my hand. And so it's in my palm. It's there to use when I'm ready. It's sort of very much self-paced, as you see in step 3. Self-paced, anywhere, anytime. It really is very accessible and it's in my happy place. So if you think about their generation, it's the way that they interpret the world. It's the way that they interact with the world around them in the main. And so we've gone to that happy place for them and unlocked that learning through that channel. So that's a little bit of an excerpt from the app. That's what you see there is some beautiful, and that's actually been done by one of our creatives. And she's gone ahead and done a symbol for each of the strengths that we get everyone to go through, really almost as the first step when they download Hody. So what you see there are very much symbols of strengths and the things that we get our young people to start thinking about. What are they good at? What are they proud of? Those sorts of things. And, as it says on the right-hand side, I truly through this year and as I've fallen back in love with my work and my purpose and my value, what I can do to really change the world around me, which is super important for me. Success really is human. Without humans doing the best that they can and being at their best, we just wouldn't have a successful world around us. So I truly believe success is human. And that really, really comes out, particularly as you're loving your work. So that's enough from me, I should say. I am very, very keen to hear from you, from others. Okay, any questions? So we've got a question here. I wonder how much of the current mental health and suicide issues amongst young people are because of the lack of teaching in human skills, emotional intelligence. You must see a lot of this. Look, absolutely. And I must say, it's really quite personal for me as well. I have obviously coached and mentored firsthand many teenagers. I've got my own teenagers and I have, they both girls, both struggle with what I think are basically fundamental principles around human skills. And because that generation are lacking the ability to really communicate with one another, to connect, to find their purpose early enough to go, you know what, I'm happy to put that ghosting to the side. I'm happy to put that person's point of view, which is coming through in socials, because it's easy to hide behind a name on a social and give your full opinion about things. And most of those opinions, unfortunately, are negative and have a negativity bias. That's what our youth are facing into, this constant barrage of information that they're not good enough. They need to be more perfect. I've got girls who look on social media all the time and their image of perfection in front of them is not reality. It's not realistic. It's not how the real world works, but that is their reality. And so the sooner that we can get them to connect with what is real, with what is most important in life, with who they are as a person, with the things that they are good at, that are already inside them. They don't even have to work for it. They're already like that. don't think about the things you're not good at unless you actually are trying to get around those things so they don't derail you, because that is important. But think about the things you are good at and do more of that. Learn how to look people in the eye. Learn how to talk to one another. Learn how to deal with conflict and how to build trust. It's not okay to ghost people and to, I heard about this phenomenon. I'd never heard about it. I'm declaring my sort of traditional mindset. You know, it used to be that, and you know, we were all up in arms when we started hearing about people dumping each other and you know, sort of telling you in not so many words that they don't like you anymore. And people used to text each other and say that over text rather than face to face. The latest phenomena is this phenomena of ghosting. You don't even have the guts to break up with someone or tell someone over text. Now you just kind of just stop, realize, you know, just basically shut them out of your life. You unfollow them, or you just don't respond to their texts. You don't talk to them ever again. That is not a human being to human being way to be. It's not appropriate. And you certainly cannot be like that in the workforce. It's not reality. And the sooner we can start to teach and to take our youth through that, the better we're all going to be, and most certainly them. How do you empower parents to continue the learning of human skills at home? Such a good question, Peter. Thank you. And how important is the role that parents play in teaching human skills? I can't tell you how important. Having said that, I've got 2 teenagers who always tell me to get back in my box. It's part of the reason why I've actually gone down this track of developing the app and actually the learning that I'm doing. I've written a work experience program for year 10s and I've started delivering it to the independent schools, because sometimes my kids don't want to hear it from me, but when they hear it from somebody else, it's like, oh my goodness, yes, that's like a good thing to do. It's so important. And the reality is sometimes we do have to let our kids know that it's not okay to be that way. Being open, letting them talk to us about what's on their mind, that's super important. Suspending judgment, not, you know, overlaying our traditional ways. I've learned the hard way, and I've got an introvert as an oldest child. As you can tell, I'm an extrovert. So I've had to reteach myself to not want to make her into an extrovert. She is who she is. She's beautiful. She's wonderful. She has so much to offer. Being extroverted is my thing. Being introverted is her thing. I can't impose my way on her. So it's really important, those conversations, and also though, holding them to account, giving them the values, telling them what, or sharing with them why self-awareness is important, why communication is important. Get back on that debating team. Both my girls, I used to be on the debating team. Both my girls were not on the debating team, much to my disdain. And I would ask them, I'd be like, is there a debating team? Are you participating in debating? No, Mum, that's social suicide. This is what they used to say to me. And I used to I used to just become so deflated. I could never really convince them to be part of the debating team. Whatever happened to that? Whatever happened to standing up in front of a classroom and presenting and debating your idea and sharing it and listening to other people's points of view? We are not having enough of that in the classroom. And certainly if we can play our role as parents and really help our children to understand the way that it works. We work, share your work stories with your kids. I know my kids are sort of seeing my reality. COVID's actually really helped with that because I've been working from home, and my girls have got firsthand just how crazy my work life is. But that's really helping them, because that's giving them a sense of what the working world is like when they can't get internships, when they can't get a job because it's hard to. They're seeing all of that play out. Have you tried to go through education channels, uni programs, or grad programs? I studied in your, yeah, Peter. So Elaine, is that Elaine's question? Yeah, so Elaine, really good question. Yes, I have. So I'm in really, really well progressed dialogue with a number of universities. One that's in the Big 8. So for those that don't know, there is sort of, I guess, the largest universities that are known as the Big 8, and they're the really, I guess, ones that everyone covets a spot in. And then there's obviously universities and education providers outside of that. I'm in dialogue with both, and we're really talking about how do we offer this up as an addendum, not an instead of, but as a sort of an addendum to the learning that's done of a more technical nature in the moment. And those are progressing. Reality is universities are facing into big change themselves. We're sort of a once almost in history change, the sort of changes that they're seeing, restructures, and really thinking about themselves as businesses. they've got a lot on their mind at the moment, but next year's looking really positive. Most certainly I'm talking to companies. Obviously with my network, I'm really, really lucky. I'm blessed with a really fantastic network of people who totally agree that there is something to be solved here. So we're starting to talk about how do we inject ourselves into graduate programs, intern programs, those sorts of things. Anywhere that we can get sort of Hody into the hands of our students and get them into this sort of career coaching program, we are there ready to go. You mentioned you didn't think the younger generations see themselves as self-entitled. This goes against the common narrative. What's your take on this? I totally do not believe they're self-entitled, no. So I believe that they are, and I've seen quite a bit of this, you know, it's sort of played out firsthand for me as I start to delve deeper into this demographic. I've spoken to hundreds of graduates, tertiary students, and secondary students as I'm running these programs. I'm seeing a huge amount of bravado that normally leads when there's lack of confidence, lack of awareness, and confusion. Our kids are basically the product of their upbringing. The reality is that they have been thrust into this world of information overload. That's their reality. They get more information in a day than some of us got in a year, you know, when we were growing up. There is nothing that is unavailable to them. But they still have young minds, impressionable minds, and they're having to make sense of all of this information, all of this overload, without having the groundwork on who they are, their self-awareness, and their strength from within. And so they are almost sitting out on that branch trying to make sense of it all. And in the meantime, we're calling them self-entitled and we're poo-pooing the way that they're going about things. That is not fair. And I can tell you as someone, and I'm not saying I have the monopoly on studies and information, but the young adults that I'm talking to, they are confused. They have no idea about the way the real world works. So of course they're going to come across as self-entitled because they actually don't know anything else. They're going to lead with bravado because we're expecting them to know what to do, and they don't. They don't have the confidence and they don't have the knowledge and they don't know what they need to do to get it. That's on us. It's our responsibility. I truly believe that. And I realize that because I've led many young graduates and new starters in the workplace. And it finally dawned on me why it was that I kept finding over and over again, why are they missing this? Why don't they know this? Isn't this obvious? And it just dawned on me one day, no, it's not obvious. No, it's not easy. We need to give them the guidance earlier so they can get started on the things they need to know. And that's our role, to show them that it's important. Last question from Jordan. What's the most rewarding part of working with people starting out in their career? Oh my goodness, Jordan. Look, to be honest with you, the beauty and the naivety of youth, you know, I'm definitely 40 something, but closer to 50 now. And, you know, you see this playfulness, this opportunity to open their minds and be curious. Once they let the bravado down and they don't have to pretend that they know everything, they actually are this amazing sponge that actually are willing to listen and to do the things that I've asked them to do. Go and do that strength survey and let's debrief your outcomes. How are you feeling about this? What is a problem solve? What does this problem solving look like? It is there for the taking. They are so willing to learn, like these amazing, youthful, exciting, energetic sponges. They just are waiting for us to give them that helping hand. And I've truly seen some amazing things in the last year, and I can't wait to see what next year brings. So I think that's us at time. I think I'm getting the wind up. I just want to thank you all for coming along and listening. Hopefully you've got something out of this. You know, Maxme, my business, Hody, the app. As I said, it's available on the App Store and Google Play. You know, the first 5 levels are absolutely complimentary, and, you know, download it. If you've got young people in your lives that you think can benefit from this, and I guess I should say they absolutely can benefit from this, just, you know, get them to get started and see what starts to unlock for them as they do the levels and you know, participate in the learning and the activities. And I'd love to hear from you. You can find us at help@maxme.com.au. So get on the website, download the app. We'd love to hear more from you. This is a really, really exciting start to what I hope will be an amazing journey.